Hey, church family, here's a question for you to ponder. And my question is, what are you boasting about? Not sure? Well, check out your social media feeds and it might give you some ideas. One person who wouldn't have had a hard time answering that question was the Apostle Paul, because Paul knew what he was boasting about. And what makes that even more remarkable is that he lived in a time before social media. When it came to boasting, here's what Paul said. At the end of 2 Corinthians chapter 11, Paul said, "If I must boast, I'll boast of the things that show my weakness." If you take time to read 2 Corinthians chapter 11, you'll find that the things that the Apostle Paul decided to boast about were things like the fact that he'd been in prison multiple times, the fact that he'd been beaten multiple times, the fact that he'd been closer to death from being beaten by his own countrymen and foreign occupiers, the fact that he'd been shipwrecked, spent a day and a night floating in the open sea, the fact that he'd faced dangers of every kind and had been thirsty and hungry, not knowing where his next meal was going to come from. These are the things that the Apostle Paul boasted about. You read on into 2 Corinthians chapter 12, and you'll see Paul talking about this thing. And we don't know what this thing was, but he referred to it as a thorn in the flesh. It could have been a physical ailment, it could have been something else, but whatever it was, he said he prayed 3 times that God would remove it. He writes in 2 Corinthians 12, 8-10, "3 different times I begged the Lord to take it away. Each time God said, 'My grace is all you need. My power works best in weakness.'" Paul follows that up by saying, "So now I'm glad to boast about my weaknesses so that the power of Christ can work through me. That's why I take pleasure in my weaknesses and in the insults, hardships, persecutions, and troubles that I suffer for Christ. For when I'm weak, then I'm strong." If you look at your life and you feel like you don't see much that you can boast about, let me encourage you to look at it through the lens that the Apostle Paul used when he looked at his. Every place where you see weakness, realize that that is a place where God has the opportunity to demonstrate His strength. Not all boasting is necessarily bad. It's all about what we're boasting in. 2 Corinthians 10:17 tells us, "Let the one who boasts, boast in the Lord." And my prayer is that He would be our reason for boasting. Amen.